Welcome everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Tara.
Greetings, citizens.
Welcome to our science fiction movie podcast. And of course, we talk about movies. We get together, we watch the movie, and we discuss it. It's really quite that simple. And with this episode, we're actually returning to a franchise that we've been slowly just plucking away at over the last year and a half. It's been a while. We've spread these ones out. But this is the original Invisible Man franchise from Universal. So we started with the original 1933 classic, and then we did Invisible Man's Revenge. Was that the name of the second one? I forget. And then Invisible Woman was the third one, and then this is the fourth film, Invisible Agent. So we're going to dive into this. We'll start a little spoiler free. We'll give you a sense if it's worth watching. And now I realize it's from 1942, and you're probably, because some people are really adamant. They think that once you're past a certain age, but no, everyone should have the option of opting out if they want to watch something that's old without spoilers. Everyone should have that choice.
Do we do spoiler free for the other ones other than the first one?
I believe so.
Okay.
I don't remember, but my instinct says we did.
Okay. Yeah, we probably did then.
We probably did. I feel like the only time I throw it out is when it's just a complete 1 out of 10 piece of trash movie that's no one should care about spoilers. We're just diving in. So
yeah, bonus episodes we don't really do that.
Yeah, bonus episodes for the most part we don't do spoiler free sections because there's no point. But occasionally we will if there's a good movie that we find in there, something worth watching. But yeah, without further ado, what is Invisible Agent specifically? It is, as the title would imply, it's taking a slightly different spin on the formula on this franchise, where we're actually set in World War II, and not only set in World War II, we're actually made during World War II. It's 1942 when this came out, which is actually probably one of the things that I might talk about the most in this, is just all of the hijinks and comedy around the Nazi characters, when I'm like, this is happening right now. Why are you making dumb jokes about this?
Yeah.
It's weird. There's so many things in modern history that we've lived through that I'm like, I can't imagine Hollywood putting out a movie cracky with hijinks characters, impersonating,
Oh, I don't know. There's so many World War II movies that were very hijinksy. Even when you watch the movies about prisoners of war at the time, they're all just I don't know, they're slapstick humor films.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of modern day stuff though. I mean, I'm sure some satire stuff will do it, but this is not a satirical film. This is just a film that happens to be set in this setting, and it has a lot of comedy in it. There is a difference, because obviously if you look at something, I don't know, Team America. I've never seen Team America, but I'm sure that had a lot of terrorist stuff in it and things like that. But that's very satirical, right, by its nature. It's supposed to be kind of poking at, topical things. Whereas with this, I get it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like, we're going to use the modern world as a setting and say, what if we sent an agent to Germany that was invisible? That's the basic premise.
Yeah, it seems very like a movie for America who needs to have something to I don't know, just not take their mind off the war, obviously, but might kind of make fun of what's happening at the moment just so they can feel a bit better about it. I don't know.
The sad part is that early on in the film, it kind of feels like it's relatively serious. It doesn't feel like it's just going to be as funny or as lighthearted as some of the previous Invisible films. But then once the actual plot gets going and we're actually in Germany, it just turns into the same sort of hijinks that we've had before. And I thought tonally it felt kind of weird and off. And I'm like, this was an opportunity to do something different. And it, from a premise perspective, it feels like it starts to do that. And then once it actually gets going, though, it just kind of becomes, and I guess I'm revealing what I think of it here, but it just kind of becomes the weakest version of a lot of the same humor that we've had in the previous films.
Yes, and not only that, but the stakes are much higher, and he seems to be trying to expose himself a lot. And I'm not making an Invisible Man joke here. I mean he's constantly pushing the envelope of being caught.
Like, I would actually like...
When the stakes are, like, really high.
I would like a dead serious version of this premise.
Mm-hmm.
Where they send someone in behind enemy lines who's invisible to steal secrets. Like, there actually could be some really tense stuff in that, where you... Because, you know, when you think of like the general Invisible Man premise, and it's usually the Invisible Man's the villain, right, or the antagonist, the boogeyman, if you will, right? And you think of the modern 2021 with Elizabeth Moss, and that was a great movie, and it really played with the idea of like you're kind of watching for anything in the room to move because it's playing with the suspense and the tension.
Mm-hmm.
I think the concept of this movie and a serious take on it could be very entertaining and suspenseful, because you have this idea of, okay, all these villains are in a room and they know that there might be someone in there that's invisible, and they're sort of looking for them, and you don't know if they're going to like hit them or touch them when they're feeling around, or maybe they see something that looks like, oh, was that like the wind that moved that, or was that him? Was that invisible bastard? But there's so much
the
potential.
paranoia could have been very good.
Yeah, there's so much potential, and unfortunately, like I think each of the three before this, obviously the first one's just amazing. It's a classic, and we praise the heavens out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think both the second one and Woman both had positives, and we kind of came out of both of those movies with fairly nice things to say. I mean, they're not as good as the first one. Obviously, they're not as well remembered, and they shouldn't be as well remembered as the first one.
No, but they're kind of surprisingly entertaining and good still.
I think the last one especially. The second one got more inventive with, okay, now people know there's someone invisible, so it became this like, okay, how do they try to catch him now? And some of that was actually quite fun in the back, like 20-30 minutes of the movie. And then the third one, Invisible Woman, it was like, oh yeah, you know what? Swapping the gender actually did shake up the formula a little bit. So it was, the humor was similar, but it was having a different spin on it, and because of that, it felt a little bit fresh again. This film, once it gets to the humor stuff and it gets to the love interest and that, I was like, I feel like we've seen all this done better before. This just feels like they're doing the same things again. I don't feel anything from these characters. This is
there's like a weird seduction scene too that is sort of a play on, because when I was watching it, I was remembering the one from The Invisible Woman and how like well that worked. And this one, I'm just like, I don't understand why she's fallen for it. I don't know, like she's getting all hot and bothered by him, like not revealing himself, but I guess we'll wait till spoilers and stuff.
Okay, we'll get specifics
to talk about.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. There is an actor in this that I really like from other movies. Let me just double check the name here. Yeah, Peter Lorre, who I know mainly from the German film from 1931, Fritz Lang's M, which is a wonderful film, and he is very notable in that. He's got a very distinct face. He also has a very distinct voice, although I don't remember him speaking very much in that film. But one of the more notable things about that is he is very quiet. But I've seen him in other things. He's in like the Maltese Falcon, I think, and he's been on to be some other things after.
I recognize him from Casablanca.
Yeah, that's another big one. He's a 30s, 40s, 50s. He's in a lot of stuff, and so I was pleased to see him, and I thought, oh, he's got a lot of presence. He's one of the villains. I don't think that's a spoiler to say. I will say this: I never predicted what nationality he was supposed to be from.
Me neither.
His first appearance in this, and
he's not Hungarian or whatever he is in real life.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can fake that though. But like, I've seen him in German films before, and of course, it's not like a far cry to, at least to our ears, sort of like a Hungarian accent to us might not sound that different to a German accent, right? Or at least if he's trying to do more of a German accent. Because, I mean, everyone else in this movie who's supposed to have a German accent is barely trying, if all.
I particularly love the prison guard who is blatantly from Queens.
There's a lot of English accents instead. There's like one or two who try to do a German accent, and it just sounds a bit goofy and doesn't quite work. Now, I understand why there's maybe not a lot of German actors they can get at this time, because it's 1942 and they're at war with Germany. But, it stuck out to me, so it's fine, whatever. But yeah, he's not playing a German.
Nope.
I'll just say that. I mean, it's actually really obvious if you go look at his name, because I didn't know what his name was. I didn't catch his name. If you look at his name gives it away.
He's a very fine actor.
He's a fine actor. He's actually
not the role for him.
He's quite good in this, actually. It wasn't until I realised what nationality he was supposed to be playing that I went,
some problematic.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially when you like realize it after our hero, our leading guy, like has a very problematic line.
Yes. There's a line of dialogue that is not aged at all. Well, no. It has aged. It's not aged well at all. That's what I mean to say.
Yeah.
So yes. So there's that. I mean, the effects are, they're kind of just up to the standard of the last one for the most part. Because you're watching it in like higher quality now in HD, you can see some strings occasionally, or like the last one, occasionally you might see like a sort of faint outline of where the person is, which I actually don't mind too much.
Like that.
Yeah, because it kind of gives it this idea that they are there and there is kind of a slight tell sometimes.
That's why we liked The Predator when we talked about that. We liked that there was a shimmer. There is a tell if you look for it,
Yeah, well, it depends how they did the effect. If it's just strings, obviously there's no shimmer because there's no one actually there. But if they're doing something where the actor was in I think the first time they did it was a velvet like black suit, but I don't know what it was. Maybe it was still that. Maybe they'd moved on to like a more traditional. Oh no, it can be green screen because they're in black and white, so they couldn't use green and blue screen. So never mind.
There's there's a couple of good effects that I really enjoyed. Like there's one with a net that I think looks really good.
Sure.
And then like the standard like antics that he gets into, coffee cups that are flying around and stuff. It's fun.
There is a scene that's interesting where instead of just wrapping himself up in bandages, this one does something a little bit different where he puts cream on. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of notable how his hands just after he puts the cream on them, they just look like hands. I'm like, okay, that's a bit of a cheap tell. You're being a bit too on the nose with that.
And his teeth are exposed. I would have appreciated if he had like black ink or something. It would have been so easy to do.
That was the worst part. I was just getting to the face because that was the problem I had with the hands. But then he started putting it on his face, and I was like, okay, so he's going to do that. He's going to put the sunglasses on. And it's going to be kind of like the bandages from the first one, but it's going to be this like my first question is, why are you even doing this? Like, who cares? Like the person you're with knows you're invisible.
Yeah.
You've already put the robe on to get warmed up. But who cares if you're making your face?
It's the seduction scene.
But you're behind enemy lines. This is a stupid time to like making yourself visible. Now you're just gonna have to wash this off later to be invisible again. He makes a lot
of stupid decisions. I mean, he's not a professional secret agent.
But like you said as well, once he's got this on his face, all of a sudden his teeth are also visible. Like, well, did you put the cream on your teeth as well?
Yeah, it's such dumb. Like, it would have been so easy to put like black ink on. I mean, the Japanese have been doing it for centuries before. Like, it was just part of like the female makeup routine was to put on like the black ink. Like a lot of the traditional like films that you watch, if you see like women in with higher status, they'll like actually put black ink on their teeth and stuff to hide like their emotions.
Or even if not actually like, like maybe even just like a set of teeth that are already colored. Yeah, like something. Yeah. Like, or even just
seems like, okay, this has been around forever. Like, why not just do it?
Yeah, or even like like a mouth guard, like just have like a black version of that would cover the teeth. Anything, just whatever. It feels a bit like an oversight. It just kind of stuck out, but I mean, otherwise the effects are fine. There's a couple of fun moments. I still enjoy whenever like the sitting in the chair, so you can see like the ass indent like going like that's a fun little effect that always works and looks good.
Yeah, or walking through the barn and like all the haze moving around when he makes his steps.
Yeah. So I mean, most of that stuff's fine. But I'd also say there's not really a whole lot new either. There's nothing really spectacular that sticks out as being, oh, that was a fun trick. Whereas at least the last one, well, yeah, it was a bit of a sex appeal thing. But yeah, when she was taking off the stockings and stuff, invisible, it definitely was a fresh image as for the clothes coming off.
Right. Well, I think what we liked about that was that she got sexy by putting clothes on.
Yeah.
It was kind of a funny reverse thing.
Well, which was also almost like just a play. It was a play on the trope. It was especially for the time when you think that we tend to think of meta commentary and like jokes like that as being a more modern thing, but it was always a thing to some extent. And this was them having fun with that. So it's nice to recognize that in old movies and old writing, where obviously there's still a lot of elements that are way behind the times and stand out as quite dated. But then there's other little things you go, no, they're word minds thinking differently and thinking ahead, and that's kind of one of them. So yeah, all right. Well, I guess we'll say the spoilers warning then, so we can dive in. The movie opens with our Peter Lorre character and our sort of main German villain, Konrad Stauffer, whatever his name is, and they go to see Frank Raymond, who is the grandson of the original Invisible Man, which made me immediately think, wait, what year was the original Invisible Man set in? Like,
yeah, that movie came out in the 30s.
Yeah, 33. It was only, 9 years old at this point? And
maybe it was more of a period piece.
Maybe
more so than
maybe
when
it was.
It came out. I can't quite remember.
I think the problem with this is that to us, it didn't look like a period piece because it was like, this is just what the 30s look like. Maybe at the time it was really obvious, like, but I mean, that's the thing though.
It's probably a detail we just forgot.
But this is his fully grown grandson though. That puts it at least like, that's a big time period. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
Especially since because the second one, if you remember, it was the brother of the original
Vincent
guy.
Price. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like the brother or the brother-in-law or something. I don't remember the exact specifics, but that didn't feel like a period piece. That had like all the main car stuff, and that didn't feel like it was like a super.
No, it felt like it was of the time.
Yeah, I mean, Invisible Woman's kind of separate because it was kind of almost out of continuity. They never referenced, I don't think, the first two. So whereas this one ties it back into the first film, but in just a weird way that made me go, wait, what year was that first one set in? Because this guy's like 35 and he's meant to be the grands. Because at first they said nephew, and I'm like, oh, it's been maybe he already had a nephew who was like a teenager in the first one that they never brought up. But I'm like, oh wait, no, he's his grandson. Oh, all right. Okay. Fine, we'll go with it. Actually, the first thing that really bothered me about this, because I thought that scene was fine, which is them coming in, he's like what would you call it? His job role.
It looked like some sort of like pulp mill or something.
It's
or
like he does.
Maybe he's some sort of carpentry.
No, he does like he does like not embroidery, but like he does like lettering and stuff like that, and like letterheads, and because he's got like a brochure of paper that you can pick from and things. Like
yeah, he had the paper cutter was the big.
I'm
thing.
sure there's a name for this job role that I am blanking on. Mainly because we have just computers and printers now that do a lot of this. No, it doesn't exist. It absolutely still exists. There's definitely fancy places you can go to get all these professional things done. But
scrapbooking places.
Yeah, but like obviously
that's what he does. He's a scrapbooker.
Regular folk don't tend to use them as much. It's more something that a company goes to use now. But regardless, so these Germans came in and they want to pay him for the formula, his grandfather's secret formula, because they want to have their own invisible agent. And he denies that he really knows anything about it. He's like, I don't have it. Like, even if my grandfather had such a thing, like, why would I have
just
that?
Working at a Kinko's.
Right? And the whole time I'm thinking, yeah, I agree with him. I believe him. Like, why would he know anything about this? Why would he have this on his possession? And then after, like, they threaten to cut off his fingers in the paper cutter, and they get venison. It's a fun little scene, and he sort of like escapes by like throwing some punches and sort of like dives out the window, and like it sort of shows that he is kind of a capable guy, right?
Yeah, he escaped like 4 of them.
But then the very next scene, he's taken to like local military, and he's told that it's like, hey, I mean. So we accepted that you had changed your name and we weren't going to come bothering you because, we accepted your privacy. But now that you've been exposed as the grandson of the Invisible Man, we want your formula so that we can send an invisible agent behind enemy lines. And he's like, I'm never giving that out. It's too dangerous. I'm never going to do it. I'm like, okay, so he does have it. Okay, fair enough. He knows it exists and he does have access to it. Fine, whatever. I'll buy that. And then because he ends the scene by saying something like, "There's nothing that could happen that will make me ever hand this over to anyone." And then it cuts to a montage.
Extra.
It cuts to a montage of newspapers about Pearl Harbor. So clearly, this first couple of scenes were set before Pearl Harbor, and then it cuts to a big meeting. The Allied nations are all together. You've got different, nationalities around this big table, and they bring him in, and he's like, "All right, I agree that times are dire, and we have to use the Invisible Man formula. However, my stipulation is that only I will use it, because only I know the intricacies and how potent it is." And I'm like, how do you know how potent it is? Have you been experimenting? Are you a chemist? Like, you cut paper. You do lettering. Why are you such an expert all of a sudden?
I know, and everyone like just agrees to it after they admit, well, we have people who like are really trained for this type of thing and are probably more suited than you, and you might die, and if you die, that's it. No more invisible.
We've got Marines, we've got the Expendables, we've got the 1942 equivalent of Arnie and Stallone. They're ready to go, and you're saying no. I, the paper man, am going to use this formula. Joey bothered me as well is that he brings up that there's a danger that, as that was a big part of the first movie, is that it makes the main character, it makes him go mad, right? And then that was obviously something that was a big part of the second movie as well. And it was dropped for Invisible Woman, but that was more of a comedy, so he's kind of like, fair enough, let it go. But he actually brings it up in the opening couple of scenes, and then it doesn't feel like it's ever a factor. It's not like they're running against the clock because he's starting to go more mad. It's not like there's a danger of him acting more, erratic as the movie goes on. It's just never really. And I think it's mentioned once again that it could happen, but it never does, or even shows any signs of happening.
I mean, it doesn't come off like when he makes poor decisions. It doesn't come off that he's going crazy, and that's why he's trying to do things like, or why he's doing things like wrong. It just comes off as he's just acting stupid.
It comes off like he's like Ace Ventura or someone like that.
Yeah, it's really not good. And I mean, that was such a huge part of the first one, because it's really like an interesting talking point of whether the serum makes you mad or having the power of invisibility is just too tempting to be bad. Like what would you do if you were invisible, kind of a thing. Like, that was such a fun idea from the first one. That
was the heart of it. That was what gave it some weight beyond just being a really fun movie.
Yeah, sure.
Was those questions.
And then this movie's just like, or you can constantly try to expose your super secret operation that will save the country.
Now, to give it's one standout scene for effects is probably when they're dropping him in to Germany.
Yeah, in the parachute.
He's in the parachute and he goes invisible while he's dropping in, and there's actually some like Nazi soldiers watching him, and he sort of fades away and he starts taking off his clothes stripping while he's dropping in the parachute.
He really should have just, parachuted naked.
Yes. But I get why they didn't have him do that, because they wanted to have the effect. They wanted to still have it look cool as the clothes.
It does look fun. Yeah.
So, I get it. And that's when you get the stuff in the barn where the soldiers are trying to like pin him in and all the rest of it. And he obviously gets away. And so this is the thing. He goes to a carpenter in Germany, who, like, okay, this is like a double agent, or this is someone that is planted from the Allied forces. They've got an ally here, which makes sense. Obviously, that those did exist in Nazi Germany. Of course, they did. And because it goes without saying that not every German was in support of what the Nazi Party were doing, right? And this old man's like there to like help him and give him what he needs, and okay, that's fine. And then he goes to our love interest character, Maria Sorensen, right? And I thought the reason why he went there in the first place is because she was another ally that he was told about, until the very end of the movie where it played it like a reveal that she was like an agent who was working for the Allied forces all along. Like, I thought that's why you went there.
She definitely would have been like the best person to give the invisible formula to, because she like knows all the people, she knows where to go, she knows the area, she knows the territory. Like, she would have been like the perfect agent, invisible agent.
It boggled my mind because that's exactly why I thought you went there in the first place. But I guess it was just no, because because her, not her husband, but the Nazi officer who's infatuated with her is the guy who came to see him at the start of the movie who wanted the formula. And I don't think it's that long since that happened, because I think he just gets back from his travels. Like, you know, we find out that he's just back later in the movie, because it's actually his lackey who's trying to kind of like undercut him and like take his job and take his missus while he's away. Because it's this more kind of sleazy slapstick character, this Nazi who wants to steal her, and he comes over and brings a lot of food. He's like, look at all this fine dining I've stolen from multiple countries that we've invaded.
Yeah.
Here's some.
That was kind of funny.
Yeah. And all throughout this sequence where Invisible Man's there, he's staying quiet because this Nazi officer's there, and she's going to try and get him to talk and like reveal, okay, because the big thing is that they're going to like try and attack the US at some point, and they want to know how and when and how to stop it, blah blah. And he starts bragging, oh, I was speaking to the Fuhrer today myself, and he was talking about this, and she was starting to get him to speak, and then our idiot main character starts playing practical jokes.
Yeah, he starts like eating his food and like kicking him in the butt and stuff. Like, what are you doing?
He was going to talk. He was spilling the beans, and you just
sabotaging this operation, and you just got here.
All he's doing is distracting him and making him do anything but talk about what he wants to talk about.
Yes, I get it. He's wearing a Nazi uniform. We all want to see him be hurt, but like clearly you want to hold off and maybe just kill him at the end. I don't know, like after he talks and says all the things you need to know.
Yeah, all of this is just like not only does it not make sense in the context of the plot, which is the worst thing about it. Let me make that clear.
Yeah.
Like that's not making sense in the context of what he's actually trying to do is infuriating and is the worst thing about it. But all of the little jokey things he's doing mostly just feel like things that we saw already in the previous movies, but done better.
Yeah.
You know, eating, drinking, all these things that are just like.
And the woman in this is like totally into it and understanding of why he's doing it, and it's like she should be so infuriated right now.
Yeah, she's giggling and laughing. She's like, it's like you're especially with the context of knowing that you're definitely an allied, like, you know, agent who's behind enemy lines and working for everyone else, and you've been undercover getting close to the right people for presumably months if not years, and this asshole is blowing the entire plan in like seconds, not even minutes. Like he like it's like 40 seconds he immediately just destroys everything. Like, but she's into it. She's just turned on by the invisible cock. I don't know what it is.
She is. Like, she really is. Because after he leaves, this is when we get the cold cream scene for the first time. And like as he starts to put it on his hands and his hands are becoming exposed. And she's like, oh, he has great hands. They're human hands covered in cream. Like, what is going on with you, woman? I guess it worked. I guess he was just so good at beating up and a Nazi, and so good at like practical jokes and eating his pheasant.
I can't sum it up any better than that.
I don't know. I mean,
she does. She has a serious lady boner for this invisible dude, which I don't have a problem with that being like part of a plot. Like I have no problem. Like the idea, you know, it's just kind of like a more funny version of her where you can't see the person, but you see them, and maybe you connect with their sense of humor, their personality. But this guy, as
that was done in The Invisible Woman, and it was great.
But as we've pointed out, this guy is annoying, has ruined all of their serious plans that they were supposed to do, and is being immature. There is nothing about him that should be making her go, oh, shiver me timbers.
I mean, he is handsome, but like,
she doesn't know that.
He's like standard 40s Hollywood handsome.
Yeah. So we cut to so the sort of the chubby Nazi guy, the the goofball one.
Mhm.
I want to say Heiser, maybe Carl Heiser. He goes back to his boss, who's now returned, and we see, oh, it's the guy from the start of the movie. It's him. It's like, okay, that makes sense that they introduced him as so villainous, and obviously Peter Lorre's character as well as the really intimidating one. Then they're going to come back, and they're both back, and that's fine. And when he starts trying to explain why he's got food all down his uniform, like he starts listening. It's like, you're telling me that the food just came at you, like there's like so. It's okay. This makes sense. Our villains are aware that this is possible, and they're speculating that because they tried to do this, that the Allied forces have started doing it instead. Right? It's not a huge leap. To the point where he comes to main woman's house, Maria's house, and storms in with a couple of guards and basically demands some things, yells at both her and Chubby Guy, arrests Chubby Guy for trying to take his job and his woman, and gets him arrested on the spot, which they all know means he's going to be executed like the next day because that's in Germany, and basically just makes a scene, and it's all a trap because he's doing this suspecting that there's an invisible agent there, so. At the end of the scene, when she goes, okay, they're gone now. Where are you, Frank? Frank! And she starts like feeling around, and after not feeling him, like after a couple of quick attempts, she's like, "Oh, I'll go back to bed." Then just takes off her robe.
Yeah, I guess I'll start getting naked.
I don't know if that was a thorough search, Missy, but it's obvious what's happened though. He's left to follow them back to his office, to his headquarters, so that he can get some deets. Right? He's going to go rummaging. And that makes sense. But of course, our genius villain, and I like that he's smart enough to like sort of set this trap. I do like that the villain is like thinking ahead of this.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in and catches him looking through files, and he's like, okay, I know you're here. Sit in the chair and swing so that I know you're there the whole time. And he's very intimidating about it. He's got guards outside the door. He's got him kind of trapped. I'm like, okay, no, our villains, and this kind of flips the, from the first two movies, especially the second movie, which was, okay, our protagonist is the Invisible Man, and we're watching all the police who are, from our point of view, the antagonist, because they're trying to stop our main character. They're all trying to stop him. This is an interesting flip on it, where our Invisible Man is actually our protagonist in the sense that he's the good guy and not just the villain. But we've got like a villain who's trying to stop him and is outthinking him and doing all these things. So I appreciate the setup of that, but our main character's just dumb enough that it's just like, of course he fell for it. Like, it diminishes how smart our villain looks when our main character was shown to be so stupid up until this point in the movie. It doesn't feel like, oh, you caught him. Oh, I wonder how that happened. Because basically, he sets a fire, which means
because he's trapped inside this building in this room, so. And it is kind of a clever way to escape.
They're up 4 stories, so he can't just jump out the window. So he starts a fire, causes some chaos. The fire truck's coming. Because they put a ladder up to the window, he's able to like go down the ladder from the truck.
Not without getting his booty first.
He does get the journal with all the double agents who are in the US. All the
convenient.
Yes. So that's
convenient that it's all in one leather bound book.
So. And apparently that the villain dude got this from Peter Lorre's character, and this was actually the first sort of indication that he was actually from a different group, that he wasn't just one of the Nazis. And I was like, wait, how's he separate then? Because he gets kind of messy. He's like, hey, you swore you would look after that book with your life, and you know what that means. It's like,
if I go back to my country without it, they're going to kill me. Like, where are you from? Yeah, where are you from
exactly?
What country?
The next part for me is a little bit of a blur. We have, I think he's with her again a little bit, but he's also with he goes to the jail cell where Chubby Nazi is, and basically Chubby Nazi freaks out because of someone talking to him for a bit, but ultimately he's like, hey, I'm going to go steal a plane and I need you to fly it and take me to London. And, I'll call ahead to make sure they don't shoot us down, but, like, they're going to kill you, so you might as well help me, and we can escape together. And it's like, okay. Like I will say this, I was a little bit worried here that it felt weird that we were kind of like making an ally out of this guy because he's, well, a Nazi and he's been shown to be a piece of shit. But to be fair, the movie sticks to its guns in the sense that he is still a piece of shit and he gets comeuppance and he is still a slime ball the rest of the movie. Like he betrays everyone. He tries to betray everyone around him like constantly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's all fair play in that sense. I'm not critiquing that, but so you've got that, and they're driving to the carpenters, but unfortunately for them, because he had a plan to like get some coffins, I think, to like smuggle them onto a plane or something like. But unfortunately, the Nazis have already gotten a hold of the carpenter. They've been interrogating him. I did kind of like the one part of this where after they've interrogated him enough and they've made him speak, they say, yeah, sign this this document just to state that you weren't mistreated. And we obviously know that's bullshit because of what they've been doing to him. And he says, I can. And he's like, you will not sign this? He's like, no, I can't. You broke my hands. I can't sign it.
Honestly, I think I've seen this scene somewhere else. Like it's been parodied somewhere.
It may have been. Honestly,
it's very familiar.
It's it's a very darkly funny scene.
Yeah.
It's a good bit.
Yeah.
It's a little satirical scene on its own that I think works quite well.
Yeah. I agree. I knew exactly where you were going when you said you kind of like this one scene. Like I liked it too.
Yeah, because
I think I've seen it somewhere.
Yeah, it's. I almost wanted like a bigger reaction from the Nazi where he's like, "Oh yes, well maybe that was a bit short-sighted on our part." No,
it's more just that. Okay, scene's over. Take it away.
Because you think he's like,
I'll write your signature for you. Who knows? Because
you think he's been a man of principle. He's like, no, I will not sign that. I have been heavily mistreated. No, they broke his hands. He literally cannot sign it.
Yeah.
So fair play. But anyway, so there's a trap in the store. Maria's there. Our main character thinks she betrayed him, and that's why he was caught. And it wasn't just because the villain was smart enough to lure him into a trap.
And because he's just such a dumbass.
So he doesn't believe that she's on his side, and she's trying to plead with him and say that she is. The Nazis are watching outside, but they never quite come in. It's actually the Japanese who have laid a trap with a net and all these fish hooks to like trap him. And it's like, okay, all right, that's a neat.
Yeah, it looks a little Hellraiser-y.
Yes.
It's just you see the net with all these hooks coming off of it, like, ugh, pinheads here.
But you know, it's notably kind of nasty. And in walks Peter Lorre and 3 Japanese characters, right?
Yeah. Did you think it was odd that he seemed to be working for the Japanese government?
I did think that was a little bit odd. And I was like, oh, so he's working with them. That's interesting. And it was at this point I went, surely he's not meant to be Japanese. And I looked up IMDb, and the character's name is Baron Akito.
Oh.
And I went, oh dear, he's just meant to be Japanese.
Yeah, I guess so. Baron's not a Japanese name, though. Or I guess it's a title, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a name and a title. I don't know.
Maybe they'll do a thing where he was like accepted by Japan and like he took a Japanese name or something. Like, but I feel like I'm giving the movie too much credit. It's more likely it's just stupid and insensitive, given the time period.
Yeah.
So, and then when he wakes up back at the Japanese embassy or whatever we went after this, like our main character says, all you Japs look the same. Which obviously is a terribly problematic line, right? And super racist. But it's got this extra layer to it when one of them is not actually Japanese.
Yeah, I think he says it to him.
Yeah, it's like, what? None of this. None of this is okay or right or makes any sense. It's all wrong.
Nope. And yeah. It's not like they didn't have Asian actors, because there were Asian actors there. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if they were specifically Japanese, but they definitely had at least some Asian actors portraying these like sort of side characters. But no, that was kind of weird.
Kind of terrible.
Yeah, again, if there's a story reason for this, or there's like a whatever, but it didn't even feel like it was meant to be a surprise. to me.
Yeah.
It just kind of felt like we were supposed to know he was with the Japanese the whole time.
I don't know. Like there was no accent, which I don't know, maybe is better.
Well,
And there
yeah,
was
I mean, he has his accent, which is notably very European sound, which is why he's the one character from what I thought was the Germans who sounded vaguely German, because he has a Hungarian accent, which is, in the ballpark.
Yes.
So it was very this was not exactly the same, but it was very close to Highlander when Sean Connery shows up and says, "My name is Ramirez and I'm a Spaniard," right? It's not quite that, but it's
right.
yeah. There's definitely a similarity.
It was a surprise. And I was thinking, like, how are they making this like a thing? Like, is he half Japanese and like half German, or but then he goes like full Japanese in his end scene.
Oh, you mean when he commits seppuku?
Yes. In front of the Buddha.
Yeah, that's right. Invisible Man's fourth movie, we have a character committing seppuku at the end.
There's a lot of murder in this film, actually. I was surprised by it.
Yeah, surprising. Maybe the 40s eased up on the murder rules. There's a lot more killing going on. Still not particularly visual or bloody. You never see blood, or you never see whatever, but it is what it is. Anyway, so... But even at the start of the movie, when they put the guy's, the main character's fingers under the paper cutter, and it's sort of like inching towards his fingers, that felt quite dark compared to maybe what we've had so far in this franchise. And I think maybe that was just a sign of the times, and like, or
when they escape the prison and the guy goes back to, and like, even though they've gotten the guards down and stuff, and they're out and they've taken the clothing, he still goes back and he shoots both of them. Like, just 2 shots he hears, and then walks away. Like, oh,
yeah,
guess he felt the need to murder them after all that.
It's a little bit vicious, yeah. So, yeah, there's a struggle. He fights them a bit. He gets away.
He kills our other villain first.
Yeah. And then because he gets away, that's why our man Peter Lorre commits seppuku. Again, it's surreal saying it, but he makes a break for the plane. I don't even remember how he runs into Maria again. How does she meet up with him?
She's there. She shows up because he's laying on the bed after the fish hook
right
is taken off of him, and he says like Maria, something when she walks in.
Yeah. So
they escape together.
Yeah, they run away. They get to the airfield. They grab a plane, and basically, our chubby Nazi, who witnesses the death of the guy whose job he was trying to steal before, he watches that and gets this little sly smile on his face. He's like, "Oh,
I'm the captain now."
I'm the captain. And he actually runs after the plane and tells everyone there, there's a foreign spy on that plane. Shoot it down. So we get actually like a plane action sequence where they bomb all of the air base to take out all the planes. So that, I mean, they don't know when this attack to New York's coming, because they mentioned it earlier on.
They do.
Yeah, they
do actually. They know. It's told that I think they do. It's happening tomorrow. The fat Nazi guy says it.
There's a line. He says something. I thought he said, "I might not know when this has happened, but I can do something about it." Maybe it was like, "I can't tell them in time, but I can do something about it." Maybe that was the line.
Yeah, that's what it was.
But he starts dropping bombs on all the planes, and I'm like, okay, that's effective enough. But did they? I have a question. I have a really important question. When they get in the plane, and he tells Maria to take off, did you go? Wait a minute. She can fly a plane? was that something that entered in your head?
She's fully instrument rated in Microsoft Flight Simulator.
I was like, have they established that she is a functioning pilot?
Yeah, I don't know. I missed that part if they did.
If there was a line mentioning that she can fly a plane, then fair enough. But I did not catch it.
I mean, it makes sense that she can fly a plane when we find out afterwards that she's actually a double agent.
It makes it more likely for sure, yeah.
But the fact that he just assumed that she could.
Yeah, because he didn't know that. He's just like, yeah, you take the wheel. Like, what? She's gonna lift off. Like, not that I expect him to. If he's like, the fact that he was releasing the bombs was weird to me. I'm like, how did you know how to do that? You do paper and lettering.
Well, times were simpler back then. Maybe planes were simpler. Maybe they had a button that said, hit to release bomb.
You give people like fancy paper for wedding invitations or business, like, with letterheads.
Well, that was his double life, right? He was on witness protection.
It wasn't a double life to begin with. It was just the life he chose.
It's like when Daniel Day-Lewis wants to be a cobbler. Make shoes.
Dear. So there's a lot of like spotlights looking up at the planes and stuff. Other characters show up though and shoot our chubby guy, so he does get his nasty ending. He gets come up and we're like, no, he was meant to be a prisoner. He escaped.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot.
He gets recognized and murdered.
So that's all fine and well. When they're on their way back into the UK, they do get shot at a little bit, and then they actually have to.
Because they're in a German plane.
Yeah, they're on a Nazi plane. Because he falls asleep. In fact, the only symptom he ever gets from being invisible in this movie is that it makes him sleepy and he takes a nap twice. He does it once in the middle, early on, when he explains that this makes me tired at the random times. I'm like, well, are you sure it's just not that it's been a day since you slept? Because it feels like you've been through a bit of an adventure by the time you got to that point. And, and at the end, he falls asleep in the plane, so he can't radio to tell them, hey, by the way, we're on this plane. Maybe don't shoot us down.
He's got the bends. That's the
so
that's the hidden cost of becoming invisible, is that you get the bends when you fly.
So she's able to like make sure he's got a parachute on, so they both parachute down. The soldiers that find him lying there invisible, obviously
the English soldiers, they're like, he's got no head.
He's like,
By
blimey,
George.
Blimey. Yeah, a lot of that.
They're extra English.
And then so he wakes up in a hospital bed or whatever, and she comes in to see him for the first time since, like, presumably they get taken to like a debriefing, and like, the guy's like, hey, she's an agent for us all along. And he's like, did I? And she's like, I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't believe me.
You're right. You are a woman after all.
But somehow he's like planned a trick in her where he's put the cream in his face as if he was still invisible. But then when she tries to wipe it off, like, there's just skin underneath, and then he takes off the head and the glasses, and it's him.
She's like, oh my god, you're beautiful.
Yeah, she does. She does the whistle. She does the, I can't do it, but the woohoo, that thing.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. She does that, and then they kiss basically. And that's it.
And the end.
Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the movie. Despite the fact that this had the most intriguing concept of any of the sequels so far, and despite the fact that this could have been a good, interesting movie, and not even just in one way, it could be the serious, tense movie where you're actually trying to steal enemy plans, and it could be really suspenseful. It could be more of a comedy movie with different comedy that's not just been the same as the last couple. You could have a main character who's not an idiot and unlikable.
Yeah.
Any of these options would have made this at least fun, if not really good. As it is, it's not the worst thing. It's not terrible or unwatchable. It's just not that good.
I mean, I know you're not a fan of Bond, but I wouldn't mind watching an invisible James Bond movie. He'd probably be kind of rapey, though. Let's be real.
If the whole movie's invisible, I'll watch it.
But still, like, the idea of being invisible is probably quite enticing to a secret agent.
Sure. It has a lot of advantages. It would almost be nice to see a secret agent try to actually employ and use that invisibility to do some things. Because that's the other thing. Like, he doesn't actually do that much with his invisibility behind enemy lines before he's just sort of racing back to, like, fly home. Like, there's the hijinks dinner scene. There's the sneaks into the office where he gets caught, which is the second time he's really doing anything with his invisibility. And then he gets caught by the Japanese, and it's all about the escape at that point.
I mean, honestly, the woman is already, like, hooking up with the main guy who's got the book. It seems like she could have done this whole thing without him, and without the invisibility serum.
Yeah, and he's an idiot. He's not that likable, and because she's just immediately impressed with him, it kind of makes her not that likable and kind of dull by association.
Yeah.
So Peter Lorre obviously has got a lot of screen presence. So he is, it's hard not to be like just fantasizing.
When you think he's a German, you're like, ooh, he's a good German.
Yeah.
Like he's a good villain.
It's hard not to be like, I don't know, hypnotized. Maybe is the word I'm looking for when he's on screen, because he's got a presence.
He's very interesting.
Look, he's got a sound. He's got these eyes that just stare into your soul. Like he's just he knows what he's doing.
He uses it well.
But yeah, that's the point. Because that's the thing. I think we were expecting the last one to kind of suck, and it ended up being actually a pretty decent little movie.
I honestly, I think the Invisible Woman is probably the best one, other than like the first one so far.
I would agree with that. I think 2 and 3 are actually kind of close, but they're both the positives in each are different. They're both got good elements that are different, which is nice.
Sure. Yeah.
This is easily the weakest one though so far.
Totally. There's another one that came out like 2 years later.
Well, it's good you bring that up, because it's something we'll probably be doing, won't it?
Probably.
I'm just going to go and confirm the details.
I think there's a lot of Invisible movies that I guess we I didn't realize there was this long franchise. I know I've seen the Chevy Chase one.
I mean, we'll probably still do that, but I wouldn't necessarily count that as the same franchise.
Yeah.
I wouldn't count the Elizabeth Moss one as part of this franchise. I'd say that.
Oh, come on.
No. It's a separate restart kind of thing.
But we're going to do it though, right?
Of course we're going to do it. I mean.
Okay, because I like that one.
But, yes, it's very good. I already reviewed it on streams, but I'll happily talk about it again. So, yes. I had to do some digging there to get the film series so that I could actually see things. Alright, so obviously we did The Invisible Man, we did Invisible Man Returns. It wasn't Revenge, it was Returns. Pardon me earlier. Invisible Woman, an Invisible Agent, obviously here. The next one is The Invisible Man's Revenge. So, that's coming up next.
That's where the title came from that you thought it was.
Yeah, so there's a Revenge one, it's just the 5th one.
Yep.
Not the 4th, so.
Is it Vincent Price? Is he back?
I don't believe so, no.
Oh, maybe it's this guy. Maybe it's Frank.
I don't think so, but I do see the name John Carradine.
Okay.
Is that related to?
I think so. I mean, doesn't he come from Hollywood family? His brother was an actor. Like Keith Carradine and David Carradine.
Yeah. David, Keith, and Robert are all his kids. Yep. So cool.
All right.
We got a Carradine in the next one. All right.
We got Hollywood royalty, royal family of B movies.
Yeah, obviously, this one, like I thought it was going to be more of a thriller action movie with Invisible Man, in the same way that the first one obviously sci-fi horror, second one still kind of sci-fi horror, the third one was more sci-fi comedy, but this one actually delved way more into comedy rather than the war movie that I thought it was going to be. This next one looks like it's back to more of more horror leaning, so we'll see what it do. Which I think you'd expect with the name Revenge.
Revenge.
Like, it sounds like it's going to be more serious again.
Just like when they did it in Jaws.
Hey, it built Michael Caine an ace house. So
I've heard that, yes.
Yeah. That's a great quote. So, but I guess we should rate Invisible Man. Oh, sorry, Invisible Agent. Sorry.
Okay, I'll start.
That's usually the sequence of events. Yes.
I just wanted to say it, so it felt like I was in charge. Yeah, it's still. I think it's still pretty watchable. Although there are some problematic elements to the film, and you do sort of hate the main character, which is a shame. But it's still entertaining, so I'll give it a 5.5.
Yeah, I think I will just undercut you slightly and just go with a straight 5. It's got a couple of nice effects moments. There's a couple of actors that are good, but ultimately it's very middling because it's just not doing anything despite the fact that the premise on paper sounds like it's doing something different, it ultimately doesn't become anything that different. And then you have a couple of particularly annoying characters, dodgy elements. Yeah, so I think I would land on a 5 out of 10 for this, which is a shame, which is notably, less than the last couple of sequels. I mean, not that I rated the last two like super high above this necessarily in terms of raw numbers, but I think there's a big difference between a 5 and like a 6 or a 7. Like like
I think anywhere above a 5, you're talking good movie.
You're talking like, worth the watch. Whereas I would say this is firmly on a, you don't need to.
Yeah, I think it's pretty skippable too. We'll see if it ties into the next one. But
I doubt it.
I'm not. I'm not so sure either. But
I doubt it.
I do like the franchise is, is seemingly taking some sort of chances and making things as different as they can in the premise wise.
No, I've not read the description of the next one, and I'm not going to, but given the title, it sounds like it's going to maybe try and tie into the first one again in terms of having the history, but I assume it's going to ignore this one, which makes me think of, there was a period of Godzilla in Japan where every single Godzilla movie that came out was a sequel to the first film but not to the rest. So it was always like, ignore the rest and just, this is just a direct sequel to the first one. And I feel like the second film kind of did that. I feel like this one kind of ignores the second one as just a sequel to the first one, and I would suspect that the next one might just be a sequel to the first one, so it feels like they're maybe kind of doing that to me.
Okay.
I don't know, I could be wrong. Maybe it'll reference this one and I'll be shocked, but I don't think it's going to.
When do we get to Invisible Man Takes Manhattan or goes to space?
Well,
we've gotten the one where it gets militarized, just like in Trancers 3. Or do we go back in time to the Renaissance or medieval times?
Oh yeah, that's adding time travel like this. Let's put an Invisible Man back in medieval times.
They're two H.G. Wells novels. Why not combine them? It's brilliant. Hire me, Hollywood.
I don't think you have to, because people in present day are like, oh my god, that's magic. Because that's usually the joke, right? When you go back to that time period, is you have people go, oh, that's magic, because they use like a phone or something in front of them, or a TV. They see a TV and they're like, whoa, it's like a box with people in it. What's going on? I mean, hell, that shows you how old we are that I even called it a box, because TVs aren't boxes anymore. They're rectangles.
They are.
But hey, there you go. That's Invisible Agent. You can let us know what you think of the movie if you have seen it in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at @mail_fuss for channel updates, and like and subscribing and commenting are super important. Ding in the bell for notifications. All YouTubers tell you to do it for a good reason, because YouTube values it immensely in terms of dictating our success. So please do hit the buttons. Tara is going to pose for the thumbnail.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, pause. All right, we'll accept it.
Just make me invisible.
No, I did that last time. You got to be invisible for Visible Woman.
Well, I got my guns out, so should be. I'm the invisible agent.
Are you trying to make yourself the agent?
Otherwise, I'm just agent. I don't want to be just an agent. Yeah,
but that would, if I make myself invisible, then it follows the movie where it should be the woman who's the agent because she's clearly more capable. But I'm the invisible one.
Yes.
See?
All right. Whatever you want to do.
See,
you're the one that makes it after all.
Hey, add layers to it, all right? You get some subtext in the thumbnail. But Tara's also going to tell you about Patreon.
That's right. If you enjoy the reviews, please check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/SmileFuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you will get access to bonus episodes of The Ace. So you can see what the Transfer Saga is all about, because we went through all of them. And there's some David Carradine stuff here, son of the Carradine who will be in the next Invisible movie. Some Garrett Graham movies, the greatest actor of all time. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to these reviews one day early, and some other shows you get a whole week early. And you get to vote on what we watch once a month. So head on over, check that out. Helps us out a lot. Thank you.
I was just scanning the IMDb reviews because I know some people missed that segment. I'll just see if there's any entertaining ones. I'll just say that there's one that's 3 out of 10 that says, at 6.0, this film is horribly overrated. We would say it's overrated.
Overrated? I mean, people don't even know what this movie is.
I don't know, but going on the 6 out of 10 average.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not that far from what we rated it.
The Invisible Man in self-contradictory wartime propaganda. Yeah, it's kind of propaganda. I mean, we mentioned obviously it was made during World War II. I suppose we never really talked about the potential propaganda-ness of it.
I mean, in its depiction of the enemies, sure, but like, because all the Nazis and stuff are pretty stupid in this, and are treated as slapstick jokes, which is pretty characteristic of a lot of war films that came out at that time. But the propaganda-wise, I don't know how it's really propaganda-y. It's not really recruiting anyone. I don't think.
There's no 10-star reviews.
Oh, okay.
I checked. There's 1.9. There's 1.9. Oh, does this one agree with you? The title is The Wrong Agent Was Invisible.
What do you mean you agree with me?
Well, you said that it should be her that got the invisibility because she would have done a better job.
Oh, is that what he's talking about?
I don't know. I mean, there's a few paragraphs, so I'd have to read it to find out. But the title makes it sound like it might be saying that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, Commando Cody agrees possibly with that point, which I agree with as well.
Sounds
for the
like a
record,
movie
but,
title.
So there you go. That's the show. That's the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Thank you for joining us once again. We'll be back next week with a movie that, as of yet, is undecided. Because it could be one of two things, so I'm not going to tell you.
Ooh, hopefully I know.
You do, deep down inside.
So I know which one to watch.
Don't worry, I will. I will update you, Tara, since you kind of need to know. It's a need to know basis, and you need to know.
Is it between two new movies?
Well, one new movie.
What are those new?
One new, and then one thing that was just scheduled otherwise that we might push back to make room for the new movie.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess we'll keep it a secret this time. Sorry, guys.
Yes. That is us. Thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching science fiction and computer. Oh, hold on. Actually, before I say this, are you going to say something after I do this? Because you didn't tell me you weren't going to say something last time, and my cadence was all wrong for the ending. Because I said it as if you were going to say something, and it sounded terrible. You ruined the end of my show. So I'm going to ask you right now, are you going to crack a joke if I set you up?
No.
See? Now I know.
Okay.
Now I know. All right. Keep watching science fiction, a computer, add salsa.